Hey, it's Kane Minkus and Jeff Slater, and we're here at the Infinite Mindset Podcast. Good to have you here with us. How's it going, Jeff?
It's good. Lots of quite fascinating things happening. Let's dive in.
Totally. We got tons going on this week in AI. So in this podcast, we're going to dissect the recent Anthropic labor market impact paper from Dario at Anthropic, and really kind of dissect what does it really mean. It created a lot of concern, a lot of issues, and it was a paper called "The Labor Market Impacts of AI: A New Measure and Early Evidence." Now, many of the big leaders in AI are sounding the alarm around high levels of likely unemployment. And it's not even just people losing their jobs. It's also the best and the easiest people to fire are the people you haven't hired yet. And so we're also seeing a lot of concern about the younger labor markets and how that's going to impact everything. So we just want to give it a full description and conversation today, and also talk about some future desires and approaches to making sure that you have some good plans, some good strategies for this. And of course, naturally, our audience and our listeners are more, in the entrepreneurial realm. And so to some degree, there's going to be impact in the entrepreneurial realm as well. We want to keep that in mind, and to keep thinking about how to position yourself and how to make sure that you are staying on the best side of it as things start to even out. We also believe, Jeff and I, that over time, things will find a new equilibrium. It's not going to be doom and gloom forever. It's going to be a transition period. Transition periods can be rough. They can be challenging, and it will really come down to how much the governments and the systems kind of step in and help out. But let's not worry about those or even count on any of that, because you can never really count on somebody else or the systems or the governments to do stuff. You got to focus on how you can be proactive in making sure that you are protecting yourself and your families. So where do you want to start, Jeff?
Let's start with number one of this document here, like the real risk, the unemployment. So why might job postings that are happening right now, why are they misleading?
Well, I think that people are over quoting right now about unemployment around AI. I think that drama and trauma and fear attracts a lot of headlines. So the marketing, the journalists, all that kind of stuff, they are all focused on wherever they can create the most amount of chaos in their headlines.
We're kind of like measuring a lot of noise instead of the actual signal right now. And so from that paper, what do you think is the signal that's actually happening? Well,
I think the part of what Darius is saying in one of the key takeaways is that we want to be measuring the proper metrics. It's not about headlines. It's not about job postings. It's not about, any other conversations. It's about unemployment numbers. We really want to understand the actual indicators of job displacement. That's actually what we need to be actually looking at. We want to really be looking at the unemployment numbers, not the hype metrics, not the job postings or the headlines that are going on. We really need to be looking at just the metrics. And actually, as it turns out, the metrics are not necessarily showing a tremendous amount of impact right now. Doesn't mean that we won't see more of it in the future, but we also want to consider, what is the next step for people when that happens. But let's keep going through some of the other major key points from this paper.
Well, there's a thing called the nonlinear impact, like the O-ring. Okay, do you think that AI disruption is gradual, or is it hit like a tipping point?
So AI is not going to gradually erode jobs. It's going to essentially have a small coverage of tasks that it's going to take over. There'll be a little effect, and then there's going to be a sudden labor impact. So it's going to I think be more of a flip, which I think is what everybody's kind of warning about, is that we're starting to see some erosion. So there are some skills and tasks. The biggest impact, and I think the biggest exposure level right now, is actually the graduates and the early stagers, those that are coming in, the kids that are graduating college and going out looking for jobs. There's a lot of companies and industries right now that are basically saying we're not really hiring a lot of young people anymore, maybe a little bit, but not nearly as much as they were, because they feel like AI can actually take on a lot of those roles. That's actually a very interesting problem for the future, in fact, not even just for now, although it is. And I think that there's going to start to be a little bit of a breakdown when kids come home from college and they're now living in their parents' basements because there's no jobs for them. And the sort of classic American, format and linear progression is go to college, go get a job. That's going to start to break down. right? So it's not going to be linear. It's not going to just gradually erode all these jobs. It's going to act more like there's a kind of a threshold to it where it's going to start to take over little effects, and then suddenly it's going to, I think, be a sudden labor
we're at
impact.
that kind of tsunami effect where everything looks calm, and all of a sudden there's a huge wave.
Yeah, jobs are not going to die slowly. It's like we're going to be automating, and then once there's enough automated, they're going to be like, oh, you know what? We don't need anybody around here. Boom, they're going to get rid of a whole bunch of people. They're not going to fire or get rid of anybody until it's clear they don't need them. So it's going to take probably a good year, 2 years, maybe 3 years. I mean, they're relating right now the job impact based upon the quality of the AI technologies. But I think that's also part of Anthropic's and Dario's point, which, by the way, I just want to acknowledge that you've got a CEO of a major AI company that is actually being very responsible. It's a little bit of an interesting dichotomy. I don't think I've ever seen this in history, where you've got a CEO of a company that's $1 billion company basically giving all sorts of warnings about the products that they're creating, and there's this interesting thing of like, everybody's got this feeling you can't stop. We can't stop it. We can't stop. Not that we want to stop it. I think that there's a certain point which we want to stop, but that's a whole different conversation than what Dario's talking about. We're just talking about LLMs and skills and things like that can be wired in automation. I mean, automation's happening. It's going to keep growing. Nothing's going to change that. When we get to things like robotics and weapons and things like that, that's a whole nother level, recursive learning, emergent behavior, all that kind of stuff. That's a different conversation. But what he's just talking about right now is just simply Claude, like Claude Code, Claude, Cowork. Like, this stuff is going to essentially be eroding jobs. But the measurement for job loss is not how good of quality the AI technologies are. The measurement of the point at which we'll see job loss is when the automations are integrated into the companies. Now, people are actually have it like job loss is going to be a bad thing. I think that on the surface, it will feel like that, or it will seem like that, because you lose your job, that's a problem. Yet, survival-based mechanisms kick in, and we start going, how do we reskill or rechange or add more value or evolve? And I think this is going to be a huge forcing of humanity to evolve in all sorts of interesting, creative ways. I'm very hopeful about it. I think that it's going to cause people to find really unique, creative ways. I don't doubt that it'll be a kind of a complex time, but I think it's going to be interesting.
I think it'll be a disruption, and through that disruption, that chaos, people will find their way in it. So how should we think differently about jobs versus tasks in the AI era? So right now, there's tasks do not equal jobs. And so how can we think differently about this?
Well, I think there's another main point of this paper is that task level exposure doesn't equal job level impact. So your tasks at your work are changing. You don't need to be answering your emails, answering your phones, responding to everything that's going on, answering to every question that's coming in social media. You don't need to do that. No human needs to do that anymore. But that's their tasks. But roles go beyond just tasks. Roles go, in all sorts of ways. I mean, being able to review, audit, edit, orchestrate, manage, let's say, make sure that it's high quality. Just all those things. Those are part of the AI operating system that a human really needs to be part of, especially as long as we're selling to humans. So if the end point of a transaction is a human will need to review the output. So there might be partial job, there might be a job consolidation, but it's not. I don't see this as, and we of course we're installing AI technologies and agents into companies all day long here, right? And we're not seeing people say let's get rid of everybody. We're seeing let's have people evolve to more important and more valuable things to do in the company.
So this leads us really to number 4, which is like it's actual minimal disruption right now. Okay, which leads to the next question. I know it's compared to where it's coming, I think it's minimal. So this is the question. If AI is so powerful, why aren't we seeing mass layoffs now? We're seeing layoffs, but nothing like I think was coming.
So what we can understand from our research into the data is that during COVID, there was it was a complex time with unemployment, one that I don't think we had seen since the Great Depression. It was rising pretty fast. And because of that, at that time, we didn't have AI to do what we're doing now. Companies couldn't lose all their workers, although they were having a very difficult time. So they were actually being forced to pay people more to actually deal with this complexity. And that may have come in around 2021, like after they might have let some people go, or they told everybody to go work at home or something. And there was all this craziness. But then they started hiring back people. I remember
that. I remember people overpaying for unqualified people.
Yeah, they were overpaying for, let's even say, low qualifications.
Yeah, agreed.
So I think that what we can understand from the metrics right now is that companies are firing off a lot of that overpaid, low quality labor And then they're AI washing it. They're calling it all AI. But if you're actually
they have something that fits the narrative.
Yeah, it's great to just transfer that responsibility so you don't look like a bad company for letting a bunch of people go. But if you actually are looking at what's actually happening, it turns out that in fact, they're not actually automating things, and they're not really ready for it yet. There's some jobs. Anthropic also posted the highest jobs at risk. These are at risk. These are not ready to go yet. So all this unemployment that's happening right now, a lot of people feel it's AI washing. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen like that soon. And there are a lot of CEOs and executives who are suggesting that that is going to be happening soon once they reach the level of automation. But we are seeing phase one, which is hiring suppression. So like I was saying at the beginning, the best people to fire are the people you haven't hired yet. And so we are starting to see not so much the layoffs, but we are starting to see the labor market of the entry-level roles starting to feel this first pressure point.
So essentially we're early right now, but something is already happening underneath the surface. And it's almost this preparation for when it's ready. So then number 5 would be the entry-level pressure, right? So it's going on. Why are entry-level roles getting hit first? How come the students are the ones, I feel for them, but why are they hit first?
So I think this is a little bit of the, this is another key point from the Anthropic white paper, or the paper, or the blog, or whatever we call it. Anyways, the entry-level roles are getting hit first. It's suggesting that a lot of companies are not hiring younger workers. There was a recent conference with a senator where he was sharing that he was talking backstage with a bunch of law offices, and they were saying, we're not hiring junior lawyers anymore. There's no need. It's all on hold because now deep research or AI technologies or agents can now do the work that they were doing. So there's no point in hiring them anymore. That's a first phase of seeing basically job suppression, right? So this is going to be an interesting first impact. Now you got all these young kids. What are they going to do? I mean, if I had to guess, because I have a teenager who's not quite at that age yet, but he's not interested in a job growing up in an entrepreneurial household. But what I could probably guess and what his friends are doing is they're building apps, they're building AI tools, they're building technologies. So I think we're going to see an explosion of new tech and new entrepreneurs out there from the young world because they want to make money. They got to make money. Now, they may not have to be in survival mode, but that's the first group that's going to be kind of pushed into entrepreneurship and have to then move things forward.
So this isn't really just a job problem. What we're going to have is a pipeline problem of new talent coming in to be a pipeline.
So we're not even really looking at that yet because there's so much complexity in our face for the next, let's say, year to 2 years. Where it used to be in a company, you would develop talent for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. You had senior leaders. Although I'm not even sure that even lasted anymore with people changing roles so much, but at least they would kind of work their way up. Maybe they'd switch companies and then they would hire someone else, but they would kind of be working their way up. But that's not going to happen if they're not hiring in young people. So we're not even arriving at what's going to happen 5 or 10 years from now. And I think, to be honest, among all of us, talking in Silicon Valley, we're not going to need them. So if we're expecting between 1 and 3 years for a lot of white collar work to get automated, why would we need to develop young people for 5 or 10 years from now? We don't need it.
This is what I find so fascinating is actually right now the high income roles are at risk. The highly educated white collar are actually more exposed than most people expected. What kinds of thinking does that? Why is that going on?
So this is part of that O-ring, right? So you've got the lower tier and then you've got the upper tier on this O-ring. And so you've got the lower tier because they don't have a lot of experience and that can be done with AI pretty easily. You've got genius level technology now that can be doing things and agents that can do a lot of the young admin stuff that they bring in the kids on. And then you've got the high level knowledge workers, and those people, they bring, though, and I want to always point this out, they bring wisdom, experience, and auditing capability. This is a little bit of the problem with the young group is that they don't even have the wisdom, experience, or the auditing capability. Whereas the higher level groups, the more educated, higher paid white collar. Now, the reason I think they're being targeted, or why they will be a high likelihood for reduction or job displacement, is because of the cost. So I think what we're going to be looking at is essentially potentially a middle tier of people that understand how to oversee and have a clean enough understanding. I mean, do you need massive wisdom to run AI tools, technologies, and outputs? My belief is yes, that's subtle layer.
You need some you need experience, a life experience to be able to see if what it's putting out is actually accurate.
Right, but if companies have essentially got to a point where their senior level is getting paid because of the pressure of their lifestyle and demands, not the actual value they're contributing to a company, this is where, and this is a really interesting shakeout. And this is why I'm excited by where we're headed. I know it's going to be painful for a lot of people, so I don't want to sound insensitive to it, but I'm excited where we're headed because I think that when we come out the other side, we're going to streamline human value. Because now if you've got, for example, let's say you bring in a kid who's not really that, all that experience or adds all that much value to your company, but you're investing in that kid for the future. So then you got future value that you're putting money into now for future value. Okay, great. And you need some warm bodies around the office to take care of stuff. This is pre-AI. Then you've got your senior executives who they're like, hey man, I've been here for 30, 40 years. I make some of the subtle decisions. I've got a lot of that value here. And I've got, my kids are they're in college or they've gone through college. Now I want to get a nice juicy. So I put my life into this place and now you're paying them. And that's out of value. Like their value is not really equated to their salary either. You've got this O-ring of people that you're basically paying that are not really adding value. So who is really adding value? Potentially that middle layer of people that can really get the job done, don't have as much demands on the top, and are not kind of have moved past the stupid levels. And I say that loosely, meaning that they're not experienced in the processes of the company or the whole thing. They're not wise. They don't have a lot of experience. So that's this O-level thing. And we're going to see, I think, that high educated group get knocked out and that low group get knocked out. It's going to be that middle tier that's going to probably continue to be maintained in the system.
So AI is actually kind of going after the most repeatable intelligence of those white collars, not necessarily the lowest skill, which leads us to our next thing, which is the augmentation and the automation. So right now, is AI mostly helping humans or is it replacing them? What's going on?
Well, right now, my experience is that it's all about collaboration. So AI is not doing anything to people. There are some very few models and very few examples in the world of AI deciding or doing things. It's a lot more of humans, instigating, implementing, instructing, making things happen. So to me right now, it's completely human assisted, but it will eventually become, AI led, right? So
yeah, we're moving from augmentation to kind of more automation, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, this is why we called our brand AI Assisted. We launched this brand almost 4 years ago now, where it was AI to assist humans, but eventually it's going to be AI led. And that's actually our next brand.
Yeah. Well, look, so we're watching a handoff happening, aren't we? Where we're moving from human execution to actually the system itself executing. And there's some lagging indicators, which we talk about here. Why are the labor markets such a slow indicator to change? How come they're so slow?
Well, I mean, labor markets move slowly. I mean, this is not like a snap and everybody loses their jobs. So businesses and organizations take time to change. I mean, by the time unemployment spikes, this game is already over. Like it's going to be way, way, way down the line. Look at it this way. There was a recent thing that came out that showed how few people are actually even utilizing AI. We're much smaller in terms of the impact and the actual people using it. The alarms that are sounding for, hey, in 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, 36 months, like 5 years from now, 2030, 2035, like this is going to be a big problem. And the reason they're sounding the alarms is it's not going to be a linear problem where people are kind of like feeling it, understanding it, adjusting, feeling it, understanding. It's going to be really quiet until it hits that hockey curve, and then everybody's going, oh, we're automated.
There's going to be a lot of panic.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll talk about some solutions to this in a moment, but this is leading to like task composition is the real battleground. So what's the difference between what AI can do and what's actually it being used for today? Like what it can do and what's being used for?
Well, I think we need to really understand what AI is actually, what is it actually doing? Like the real conversation here is what tasks can it be doing, not what jobs can it be doing. So I think that we need to readjust our conversation in the marketplace more around what tasks are you doing that you don't need to be doing? Where in your business could you say, hey, what does not need to get done anymore can be done by AI? And then start to redesign and composite your work. This is what's going on right now in businesses at the highest level. They are all looking at how to redesign work in their companies. They're either seeing that people in their companies are willingly taking on AI, learning it, upskilling it, looking at how to redesign their work, making themselves more productive and everything, or they're not, in which case you will be on the target of getting, thrown out, in which case you'll need to at that time.
So the actual strategy kind of lives in the gap between the capability and the adoption itself, which brings us to, we're early, but it's inevitable. So are we actually early in this shift or are we already behind?
So we're early. We're early. I mean, what everybody's saying, what Dara's also saying in this, in my opinion, and what the thing is there's a lot of hype and a lot of fear mongering going on. And it's mostly to get people to take action early, because it's worse when you're caught off guard than if you have been prepared for it, right? So they're fear-mongering, but they're not saying it's happening now. I mean, you hear people, they'll say 12, 18 months, 24 months, but they're also not saying 10 years from now, 20 years from now. They're saying in the next 12 to 18 months. Now, they may be putting it out there because shorter distances cause action, right? If you feel like it's earlier than later, maybe it's really like 3 to 5 years. I mean, if you talk to my wife, she's like, look, I think this is going to be much longer than everybody's talking about. We're talking about like 5 or 10 years, but who knows? And she's not saying like she's right. She's just saying that it seems like there's a lot of pressure right now to make sure we're very prepared so we don't arrive 3, 4, 5 years from now. Everybody starts losing their jobs. We end up at 30% unemployment.
So it's really, I think if we lay it out, I think the timing is uncertain. I know it's sooner than we all think it is, but I think the timing is actually uncertain, but the direction itself is not uncertain. We're going in this direction, but the timing is uncertain.
Nobody is saying that's not going to happen. It's somebody's opinion. Everybody understands where it's headed. So let's start talking about some solutions. So although our audience is consultants, entrepreneurs, business owners, things like that, of course, everybody will be affected, right? Because as an entrepreneur, if we've got a high unemployment rate in the country or all over the world, you've got more fear in consumer spending. Once you have fear in consumer spending, as an entrepreneur, you got to navigate a more complex market. If you've got a sudden uptick in entrepreneurs, 30, 40, 50%, you've got more competition.
Yeah, if everyone's an entrepreneur, right. I mean, that's going to be, that creates an opportunity and a big problem.
Yeah, and both. And so I think part of it is start early. I mean, part of this narrative is start early, start pivoting early. Like if you got to pivot hard, it's much harder. It's like driving in a car and you drive around a sharp corner because you're going too fast. You weren't prepared for the corner.
Yeah. So what is the solution? Is it, what's the pivot?
Well, there's a couple things I think that we should note here. First of all, entrepreneurship is an important future. It's going to be to me, it's going to be the only future. That's what it is, and that's going to be the real game. Pretty much, I think everybody will, even if they're in 3 or 4 pods of 5 or 6, they'll all be probably co-founders of a company, and they'll all be working together. Maybe a couple of employees, but it's not going to be a strong employee market, in my opinion, the next couple of years. We've been predicting this for 20 years. We've been a little early, but now there's some obviously reasons why it would happen versus just desire to move towards the entrepreneurial lifestyle. In the meantime, I think that entrepreneurs need to also think about what value they're going to be adding so their companies don't get whisked away as well. And how are they going to navigate a complex environment with lots of competition and potentially concerned in the market. But on the other hand, consumer spending fears. But on the other hand, with a lot more businesses, as long as we're serving humans, you've got humans consuming. And so to me, until we switch over to, let's say, an agent consuming everything, agents are buying from agents and agents are making all those decisions and everything. Until we've got that, it's still going to be humans utilizing AI to serve humans. And I think as long as we don't go past that mark, we're going to just find a new equilibrium. Everybody will re-upskill, we'll just change history, and we will start working in totally different ways. Yep.
So in summary, what is your overall conclusion after reading this report for you?
So in summary, it's don't stick your head in the sand. We got our last date night, Alessia and I were talking about what does this mean and what should we be doing and where should we be investing and putting our attention. So I think the first thing is don't stick your head in the sand. Do as much as you can to be, basically staying competitive. Entrepreneurship is a given. So if you're not already an entrepreneur and you're listening to this, it's time to really learn how to do that and what to do, even if it's a side gig. If you're already an entrepreneur, you better get sharp about your ideas and skills. Make sure your company is agentified and you're working as much as you can on getting stuff in. And essentially just keep looking at the indicators and how you can serve and help. And let's all find ways that we can serve and support each other. I mean, the technology and the evolution is what it is. Just like in the Industrial Revolution, it's going to happen. But I think that as humans, we are going to need to find ways to serve and support each other, to help each other go through that and find a nice evolution. When humans are going through trauma, drama, or turmoil, they need each other. And this is an important thing that we actually, instead of, we careful that we don't get the social unrest and things like that. Like, we need to work together. And I think one of the things that Dario has been saying is you should tax us. Like, when's the last time you heard a CEO say, tax me? Like, no, they never said that. But what they're saying is that you should be taxing AI companies because we're giving this great technology to humans, but we're also creating a big complex situation for them. We're happy to pay for that because we're benefiting from it. And I think this is part of why Dario is actually emerging as a little bit of a kind of a bit of a hero. I mean, I don't make him into some martyr or something, but he's just a bit of a, sort of, let's just say level-headed instead of a hero. He's coming across as a level-headed executive in this thing going, look, I know what we're building is going to create complexity for humanity. So we're happy to pay for that and happy to try to keep a balance. We want to see this evolution. We're capitalists. We want to grow our business and create wealth. That's the risks that entrepreneurs take. And we also want to be responsible for the impact. It's just like if a company was, creating, carbon emissions, or they were creating issues in the environment, and they were saying, hey, as part of the issues we're creating, we need to be donating to trees, or we need to be donating to cleaning up things, or we need to be paying or getting taxed to, clean up the environment after we've made a mess. It's about being responsible. It's about, corporate responsibility.
Yeah, it's a win it's keep maintaining the win all the way around. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Now, I'll leave us on one interesting thought. This is going to be philosophical, and we'll leave it here. Is I find it interesting that these CEOs of these companies are actually coming out in movies and things and saying, we're not so sure about the future of AI and how humanity will be with it.
It's a little odd, isn't it?
It's a little odd to be working on a product that you think is possibly going to be a major issue.
And they have the visibility into it like no one else.
Yeah, so it's definitely interesting times. But in the meantime, bottom line, make sure you're continuing to, implement, work with, keep training yourself as an entrepreneur, keep supporting and serving others and doing that as well. And, that's going to be the game for right now. Cool. All right. Well, thank you for being here at the Infinite Mindset Podcast, and we will see you next time in our series. Have a great one, and we'll catch you in the next series. Bye.